Su Qingzhi died suddenly at the age of 26. After binding the Roll King system and completing the task, Su Qingzhi returned to the entertainment industry when black people were shouting and fighting all over the network. Regarding this, Su Qingzhi said, "I won't be involved anymore. I will go back to the countryside to retire. Farming, fishing, raising chickens, herding cattle." Su Qingzhi is omnipotent. Su Fuqiang looked at his daughter who had been busy all day and felt heartbroken. "Qingzhi, stop being busy and come back." Su Qingzhi said, "Dad, I'm not tired." The two little ones crouching at Su Qingzhi's feet pursed their lips. "Unscrupulous merchants. It's us who are in charge, of course you're not tired." Su Qingzhi frowned and said, "There are delicious chicken legs tonight. The master is the best. Meow, this Meow +1. Keywords of the novel. After the full online blackout, she returned to the countryside to retire without a pop-up window. After the full online blackout, she returned to the countryside to retire without a pop-up window. Download the complete TXT collection. After the full online blackout, she returned to the countryside to retire with the latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. I can go home for retirement. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. I can go home for retirement. Hurry up and send a video to apologize again. The whole network is cursing now. If you don't find a way to regain your reputation, there is no need to renew your contract the day after tomorrow when it expires. This is the original words of the company's senior management. Su Qingzhi, did you hear them clearly? Listening to the irritable male voice on the phone, Su Qingzhi lay on the sofa and lazily replied, Then let's not continue." "What are you saying?" The other person couldn't believe it. Su Qingzhi rubbed the swollen temples and said, "Then we won't continue. What else can you do without renewing the contract?" "I can go home for retirement." On the other end of the phone, there was a burst of angry laughter and a growl. "If it weren't for the resources provided by the company, you could have managed to survive until now. A few days ago, you cried and asked me to plead with the company. Now that I'm changing face so quickly, it's close to the owner. Retirement. Oh, those few coins in your pocket are not enough to fill your teeth. Not renewing the contract is just right. Don't delay me from bringing other earning artists, you." Su Qingzhi hung up the phone. The other party was too noisy, chattering like the crow she had raised before. Su Qingzhi sank his entire body into the sofa behind him, nestling comfortably. She had only been back from the last world for less than 10 minutes when she received this call. Her head was in a dizzying and painful state, and she needed a quiet environment to tidy up her thoughts. In her past life, she worked tirelessly in the entertainment industry and was a model worker. She worked 365 days a year and slept only 3 or 4 hours a day. As a result, at the young age of 26, she suddenly died. After death, she was bound by the King of Scrolls system and needed to complete tasks in 3 worlds to return to the original world. The first world, where 20 years of academic failure turned into academic achievers, and daring to venture into the financial industry, is terrifying. In the second world, after 30 years of riding the waves in the entertainment industry, she has honed her acting skills and gained a good reputation as a movie queen. In the third world, it took her 500 years to complete an unbeatable task in the cultivation world. How old are you when the system teleported you back to the 3 worlds Roll King mission after it met the standards? It's been a long time, and she has forgotten when the company demanded an apology. Su Qingzhi glanced at the time on his phone screen and finally confirmed that he was 22 years old. What exactly happened? I forgot again. Su Qingzhi rubbed his swollen head and directly opened Weibo, searching for his own name. Fortunately, the top few items with high popularity were all cursing her, saving her the trouble of flipping through them and making things more or less clear. It was a variety show, and she was drinking water when she choked and sprayed directly at the top male star who was coming towards her. She apologized at the time and later apologized on Weibo. And the current situation. Su Qingzhi. I'm sorry. Male top tier. It's okay. Top male fan. It's okay, she must apologize again. Otherwise, I'll die. In her past life, she apologized countless times, but it didn't work. She was scolded for half a year and started her career in the entertainment industry at the age of 26, relying on a costume drama called The Third Girl. In this lifetime, scrolling is impossible. My hometown has mountains, water, and fields in the countryside, and everyone speaks better than keyboard warriors. She wants to go back to the countryside to retire. Su Qingzhi made up his mind to retire, opened his mobile banking, and saw the balance in his card. 250, it's not a big problem. She remembers that although she was a little transparent, she also made some money and bought the house she lived in full. The house is not big, with one bedroom and one living room covering 50 square meters. Although the location is a bit off-center, at least it is a house in the state city, and it is estimated to be sold for 1 million yuan. Of course, her confidence in retirement comes not only from this money, but also from a chance encounter she encountered while going out to practice in the cultivation world. The spiritual space. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Spiritual space. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Spiritual space. Su Qingzhi received a system commitment that after completing the task, the spiritual space could also be brought back to the original world. She rolled up while preparing in advance for her retirement plan when she returned. She refined a lot of elixirs and collected many beautiful jewelry. The best ginseng is hard to find, so she stocked up on several large boxes and many rare items, all of which she put in the space. At this moment, her mind moved and she entered the spiritual space. In front of her was a thatched cottage, her warehouse. Next to the thatched cottage was a trickling river, which was the spiritual spring water that the cultivation world was flocking to. Looking further away, there were layers of peaks. Su Qingzhi took a deep breath of the spiritual energy in the space, and his dizzy and swollen head felt quite comfortable. A bald crow flew from a distant branch and landed on her shoulder. Gaga. Master. Su Qingzhi glanced and frowned. Why are you here? Ga, Master, I know you're going back to the original world. I've been hiding in space for a long time, so I can come with you. Gaga. Not only am I here, but you can also look over there and have a bigger surprise. Su Qingzhi followed the guide and saw a large white cat drinking water by the river. What a big surprise! Su Qingzhi's eyes darkened and he almost fainted. Strictly speaking, it's not a cat, it's just similar in shape. In the world of cultivation, they are all spiritual pets saved by Su Qingzhi during his forest trial. Afterwards, he relied on Su Qingzhi and indulged in eating and drinking for hundreds of years. Su Qingzhi came out of the spiritual space and lay on the sofa, trying to calm himself down. He pinched the person with his hand. They all followed over. How can she still retire? Everyone is a big stomach king who doesn't do anything. When she was in the cultivation world, she always caused trouble for her. She thought, after completing the task, she would go back and get rid of these troublemakers. As a result, they all followed without falling behind. Gaga. Master, what's wrong with you? Su Qingzhi tilted his head and saw a bald crow flying in the air. Lowering his head again, a big cat squatted on the velvet carpet in front of him. It is good at picking places, especially soft floor mats. The big cat is looking at its owner with grievances. Meow. Master, why do you seem unhappy at all? Su Qingzhi chuckled coldly twice and said, Hee, can I be happy? You two knew what you did every day before. You, jumping on my master's head in the middle of the night, caused me to copy the scriptures 500 times. And you, defecating on my senior brother's head every day, caused me to get stitched. I finally achieved good results. I planned to come back for retirement, and you even came after me. The bald crow looked away with its round little eyes, feeling too guilty to speak. Meow, master, don't be angry. Look, I have deliberately hidden several packets of seeds for you, otherwise they will all be taken by the system's old six. It extended its paw forward and shook off several packages of things wrapped in oil paper, with names written on them in calligraphy. Qingzhi naturally recognized it, as it was the miraculous seed she had personally packaged. Wait a moment. Qingzhi suddenly realized the second half of the sentence, his mind twitched, but his hand was empty. A sudden bolt from the blue, her small warehouse has nothing left. Roll King system. I hate you. The big cat looked innocently at Qingzhi, with a slightly curved mouth and a face full of words. I helped you hide a few packets of seeds, praise me. A few minutes later, Qingzhi finally accepted reality. The system's payment has absconded and cannot be recovered. These two guys have come over, and she can't lose them either. This world is no safer than repairing the immortal world, and she can't do such a heartless thing as abandoning them. Qingzhi had to give it a more normal name and couldn't call it bald or big cat like before. Don't ask why. I didn't think it was unpleasant before, but now I feel it. In the future, you will be called Yuanbao, and your body should be smaller, like the size of animals in this world, otherwise taking you out will scare others. Meow, okay, master. Yuanbao has transformed into the size of an adult white cat. The crow stopped on the nearby chandelier, chirping and asking. Gaga gaga. Master, what about me? I don't want to be called bald by you again. Qingzhi looked at it and rubbed his brain, which was hurting from the noise. Chatting every day, let's call you chatting, he said. The crow flapped its wings in dissatisfaction. Master, I don't want it. Chickens are bad guys. When I was a child, they always chased after me and pecked at me. I don't want to chirp. Qingzhi said. She sighed helplessly and shook her head. Then I'll call you Zhaokai from now on. I like the name, Gaga. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Returning to retirement is not wrong. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Returning to retirement is not wrong. Qingzhi made up his mind to go home for retirement and immediately contacted an agent to sell a house. The savings of 250 in her hand are still a bit insufficient. Although she is still a small transparent woman with 18 threads, she has a lot of clothes, shoes, bags, and many hang tags that have not been opened yet. So she took all the photos and posted them on the Salted Fish, selling them at a 50% discount. The discount is high, and many things are sold as soon as they go online. The courier came to pick up the package the next day, and then she waited for the buyer to receive it, and the money was received. In less than half a month, just selling second-hand goods, she had an additional savings of 68,000 yuan. For the past half-month, she has been going to bed and waking up early every day, cooking and stewing soup with Lingquan water, and finally taking care of her body by staying up late. 3 days later, someone finally came to see the house, and the other party readily asked for the full payment. Qingzhi simply wiped out the remaining tens of thousands or 1 million yuan, and agreed in advance that he needed 2 days to move. After finishing the contract process that day, Qingzhi packed all the unimportant things and sent them to go home. The next day, I packed up the remaining things and set out on my way home. It takes a total of 7 hours to transfer from high-speed rail to bus and then to passenger bus. She waited for others to get off the car first, carrying the luggage placed in the front row before getting off. Qingzhi, you're back. Su Fuqiang, who approached the car door early, reached out for his suitcase and muttered, your mother is cooking dinner at home. I know you're coming back. Today, Dad specifically killed a chicken, a duck, and your favorite dish, water spinach. Qingzhi looked at the middle-aged man who was sunburned in front of him, and his black hair turned white by half at some point. For Su Fuqiang, the separation from his daughter has only been less than half a year. For Su Qingzhi, it has been 550 years since we last met. She hugged him and said, "Dad, I miss you so much and also miss Mom." Su Fuqiang's body stiffened for a moment, and the next second he quickly pushed her away. He placed his suitcase on the old tricycle and turned his back to Su Qingzhi, muttering, "You little girl, you still need to be more reserved. So many people are gossiping when they see her. You're my dad, who's talking nonsense." Su Qingzhi said forcefully. Su Fuqiang didn't argue with her either. He swept away the dust on the wooden stool behind the tricycle with the back of his hand, and then vigorously wiped it with the palm of his hand, wiping it clean and patting it twice. "When I came out, your mother said she was going to eat. If the food gets cold, it won't taste good anymore. Please sit on it and be more careful." Su Qingzhi climbed up and sat on the bench. She also knew that her father was embarrassed and didn't chase after him anymore. Their children, who grew up in the countryside in this era, seem inexplicably embarrassed to say some emotional words to their parents, and their parents also feel embarrassed. Drive further 5 kilometers from here to reach Su Qingzhi's hometown. A small village located in the south of our country, Taoshui village. The tricycle was bumping forward on the road, and a black sedan was passing by head-on. Su Fuqiang said in his mouth, "In 10 years, Dad will also buy a small car to drive, and then he will drive a small car to pick you up. He won't drive these damn tricycles anymore." Su Qingzhi heard this 10 years ago. "Every year when my father drives a tricycle and takes the family to my grandmother's house for the Chinese New Year, he always says this as he looks at the oncoming small car." Su Qingzhi has made up her mind to come back for retirement, so she naturally wants to buy a car, but she has just returned and is not suitable to mention this matter. "Just say in advance when you want to buy." The summer breeze in the evening blew over my face, different from the hot and unpleasant smell of the city. A refreshing feeling filled my breath with the pure smell of trees and grass. There is an unknown bug barking, and whose dog barked twice further away. The camphor trees on both sides of the road have grown luxuriantly. In 2006, the government built a cement road leading to the village, making travel more convenient for everyone. 1 year after the road was repaired, the government planted rows of camphor trees on both sides of the road, which were still bare poles at that time. At that time, Su Qingzhi had to look at the trees at the door every day. In a few years, birds had settled down, but unfortunately, she was poked by a few stinky children. She was so angry that no birds had settled down anymore. The old man said that the trees that have been poked into the bird's nest are not worth the attention of the birds. Many childhood memories surge up, and just this familiar sense of familiarity makes people feel comfortable all over. Su Qingzhi increasingly felt that the decision to come back for retirement was not wrong. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. I Come Back to Farm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. I Come Back to Farm. The tricycle drove all the way to the courtyard dam at home. A middle-aged woman came out of the room, wiping her hands on her apron pocket. Her voice was loud and she shouted excitedly, "Qingzhi, hurry, hurry. The dishes are all cooked, and will wait for you to eat." Wang Yanmei was really happy in her heart. Just as she was washing the chopping board halfway, she quickly came out listening to the commotion. Before she could wipe her hands clean, she was hugged by someone. Su Qingzhi hugged her and said, "Mom, I miss you." Wang Yanmei listened, but her heart was thumping. As she waited for someone to let go, she looked at her own daughter with concern and whispered, "What's wrong? You've been bullied outside." "No," Su Qingzhi shook his head. "I just missed you and Dad, so I came back." "Harm, if you want to come back anytime, Mom won't stop you. Let's not say anything for now. Hurry up and put down your food to eat, so that the chickens and ducks can be eaten while it's hot." Wang Yanmei called out. A family of 3 sat at the dinner table. There are 4 dishes on the table, 1 pot of ginger fried chicken, 1 pot of beer duck, 1 pot of corn rib soup, and 1 bowl of stir-fried water spinach. Why is it called a bowl? It's because of the chicken. Duck and soup are both very big and can't fit in a bowl. In our hometown, we use stainless steel pots to hold the main dishes. Qingzhi knows that just by smelling the taste, he knows it's delicious. She put a piece of chicken in her mouth. Wang Yanmei held her chopsticks in her hand and asked tentatively, "Qingzhi, how does it taste?" Qingzhi took 2 bites, and the chicken was fresh and tender with a bit of chewiness. With the flavor of ginger and the strength of his mother's special wine pot chili, he swallowed it. Another piece of beer duck was added, and the duck meat was stewed even harder. It tasted fresh and spicy, with a hint of cinnamon and star anise aroma. Corn and pork rib soup is more pure, with a very light salt taste and more of the sweetness of corn and the original flavor of pork ribs. Water spinach is grown at home, unlike the ones bought in the city where the leaves are old and the poles are as hard as sticks, only the tender ones on top are pinched and fried to eat. Delicious. Wang Yanmei just smiled again and put the chicken legs in her bowl. It's delicious, just eat more. Working outside is so hard, and you've lost weight. You need to make up for it more, she said as she spoke. Wang Yanmei shook her head and sighed, Mom is old. Last time I cooked for your grandfather's birthday, I forgot to add salt to the fried chicken. I was laughed at by my relatives for a long time. I'm afraid this time I'll make another mistake and you won't like it either. Mom, the dishes you stir-fry are the best in the world. Qingzhi's words are sincere. From childhood to adulthood, she has never eaten anyone who is even more delicious than her mother's cooking. She held a big chicken leg and fed it into her mouth, only to hear a voice in her mind, Master, when will we be released? Zhao Kai also wants to eat chicken legs. Meow, Yuanbao +1. This spiritual space is integrated with her divine consciousness, so only she can hear the sounds of the summoned wealth and ingots locked in the space. We need to come up with a solution, we can't just keep locked in the spiritual space. Su Fuqiang drank the medicinal wine he had brewed and ate some small dishes while asking, Qingzhi, how many days are you coming back this time? Your room doesn't have air conditioning, it's hot this summer, and you've been living there for a long time. Dad will have the one who installed the air conditioning come and install one tomorrow. After only staying for a few days, it's temporarily not installed, and this year's rice has been confiscated. I won't go back, the house has also been sold, Qingzhi said. What? Wang Yanmei's already loud voice suddenly rose, little do you know, why did you even sell the house? I'll come back. Qingzhi once dominated the cultivation world, but under the eyes of his old mother, who was as big as a copper bell, the word elderly care was particularly hot, so it was changed to farming. Yes, when I come back to farm, I can also accompany you. Qingzhi repeated, you and Dad are both old, and I can take care of you. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. You can have a great future. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. You can have a great future. Your father is 50 years old and I am 42 years old. Wang Yanmei's eyes widened even more. Qingzhi looked like a little chick and said, didn't you just say you're old and forgot to add salt to the stir-fry? I'll come back and take care of you, it's just right. Wang Yanmei choked up and said in a tone of hatred, you're confused. When a celebrity earns more money, it's not easy for you to act in a few movies. If you persist, there is hope. Su Fuqiang patted Wang Yanmei's hand to signal her calmness, then turned to look at his daughter and said, Qingzhi, have you seriously considered it? Qingzhi nodded. Su Fuqiang sighed and said earnestly, farming is harder than you imagine. You have to plant seedlings, sprinkle medicine, and harvest rice. Your body can't do it all day on this sunny day. Dad hasn't read a book and can't earn money outside, so you can only farm at home. You're different. You went to college and even acted in a play. It's because Dad doesn't have the ability to help you, but you can have a great future. Dad, I really figured it out. And it's not just farming. Our house has mountains and land, and there's a pond in front of the door. I can plant some fruit trees, vegetables, and fish to support myself. Su Qingzhi originally thought the same way. After planting the fruit trees, there is spiritual spring water that can harvest every year, and the vegetables we grow are delicious to eat. We can also raise some fish and supplement protein. Look at your remarkable achievements. Wang Yanmei couldn't help but feel angry. Su Qingzhi is not angry either. Her family is a typical tiger mom cat dad, where mom sings red face and dad sings white face. She held her head high and said, "Mom, I sold the house and have 1 million in my hands. It's enough for us to eat for a lifetime." You're really impressive. Wang Yanmei picked the tenderest piece of chicken and put it in her bowl. Let's eat, don't say anything. Su Qingzhi still had a very happy meal. She knew her mother well and only spoke so hard, but in fact, her heart couldn't be softened. There are a total of 3 floors in the house, with a structure of 233. After dinner, Su Qingzhi went back to the second floor room, tidied up his things, and took a shower. Wang Yanmei, who was still tidying up on the first floor, received a WeChat message from her biological sister. It is a link. There is also a voice message. She dare not click on the links randomly. As Qingzhi has said, these links online cannot be clicked randomly, otherwise it will leak information and may even steal money. She simply clicked on the voice to listen. Yanmei, I heard that Qingzhi has returned home. Perhaps she was cursed too harshly online and couldn't bear it anymore. Look, this was sent to me by Lin Lin. The curses inside are really unpleasant. Don't mention it to Qingzhi either. Pay attention to her emotions these days, don't take it too hard. Young people are under too much pressure now. Wang Yanmei is not surprised that her own sister will know about Qingzhi's return. This is how it is in the village, and every girl from the same family who comes back knows it. Just lightly aware of being scolded. Wang Yanmei doesn't understand the internet. Even this smartphone was bought by Qingzhi and taught him hand in hand. She only knows how to make phone calls and WeChat now. She tentatively clicked on the link and read it. Although she had not read any books and couldn't understand some words, most of them were understandable. She slowly slid down, her eyes fixed tightly, word by word, and the more she looked, the redder her eyes became. After using the restroom, Su Fuqiang came out and saw his wife's shoulders shrug. She covered her mouth and looked at her phone while crying. She quickly walked over and frowned, asking, "What's wrong with you?" Wang Yanmei shook her head and cried, suppressing her voice for fear that she might be heard upstairs. "Rich and strong, let your daughter stay at home, don't talk about her," she said. Su Fuqiang looked bewildered and said, "When did I mention her? Didn't you say that?" Wang Yanmei punched him in the chest. Su Fuqiang said, Okay. I said what I said, I won't say it anymore. Don't even mention this matter, let your daughter do whatever she wants at home, just be happy," Wang Yanmei said, stuffing her phone into Su Fuqiang's hand. Su Fuqiang took a few glances and understood. He frowned and spoke heavily, "Okay." End of this chapter. Chapter 6. A noisy bird and a clever meow. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. A noisy bird and a clever meow. After taking a shower, Su Qingzhi's door was knocked on by someone. "Qingzhi, Mom will send you something to eat." Su Qingzhi went over and opened the door. Wang Yanmei held a small plate of yangmei with a loving smile on her face and said, "Qingzhi, this is the yangmei planted by your father. It was just picked today, so you can try it." "Mom, if I brush my teeth, I won't eat anymore." She waved her hand, feeling a bit surprised and said, "Isn't the waxberry tree never bearing fruit? It actually bears fruit this year." "Don't mention it, I get angry when it comes to it. When your dad said he wanted to plant a certain type of yangmei tree, I didn't agree. It hasn't been fruiting for several years, and this year, there are dozens of yangmei trees that are sparse and have some small fruits. These big ones are still ripe, so I picked them and picked them. If I didn't pick them, it would be bad. Wang Yanmei said emotionally, but fortunately, the cost of planting a yangmei tree is not expensive. She only spent more than 4,000 yuan on planting around 200 trees, and she could still accept the loss. Su Qingzhi nodded, held the plate, picked up a yangmei, and took a bite, causing his teeth to ache. Wang Yanmei saw her expression and quickly asked her to vomit and stop eating. Su Qingzhi vomited it out, and there was still a slight sour taste in his mouth. Wang Yanmei wanted to take a look at her daughter's condition by giving her fruits, but her family didn't buy any fruits at the moment, only this yangmei, so she washed and brought it up. Letting her eat was just talking, but when my daughter said she wouldn't eat, she didn't take it to heart and didn't pay attention. As a result, my daughter really ate it. She quickly took back the fruit tray and said, "Mom is here to tell you that if you don't want to go back, you won't go back. Mom can also support you at home. As for farming, it's too hard for you, let your dad do it. If you want to raise fish and plant trees, there is still some empty space and a pond in the back of the house. You can do whatever you want." Su Qingzhi felt a bit strange, but her mother's attitude suddenly changed. "But it doesn't matter, as long as the final result is what you want." "Okay, Mom. It's late, why don't you go to bed earlier? Close the screen window, there are many mosquitoes at home." Closing the door, Su Qingzhi set up a silent barrier and released the two noisy little ones in the space. The crow stood on the outdoor clothes rack, while the white cat jumped into the wooden oven placed under the nearby table with no power on, which is only used in winter. A cat and a bird remained silent in harmony. Two little ones heard a faint message from the girl lying in bed, "It's time for you to repay your kindness. It's not that we don't report it, it's not time yet. Meow +1. Su Qingzhi said, do you still want to eat chicken legs? It's time, I'll report. Meow +1. Su Qingzhi instructed the two little ones to do something and glanced at the time. It was already 10 o'clock and it was time to go to bed. Listening to the sound of rain and thunder outside, Su Qingzhi fell asleep in an instant. The next day, Su Qingzhi received a call and the package arrived. "The express delivery from our home is only delivered to the town, so we need to go out and pick it up ourselves." Su Fuqian was called out early in the morning to help the farmers sell watermelons and earn 60 yuan a day. Su Qingzhi drove a tricycle to the town, which was a 10-minute journey. I picked up the things from the delivery point and threw them on the tricycle. Su Qingzhi went to buy a birdcage and a cat's nest again. Since he wanted to bring home Zhaokai and Yuanbao, he still had to pretend. On the way back, the crow was jumping up and down in the cage, chattering incessantly. "Gaga, I'm so excited, I finally have to meet my parents. This broken cage is a bit shabby. Gaga gaga. Master, can I eat chicken legs every day in the future?" Upon hearing the chicken legs, the white cat lying lazily in its nest raised its head and said, "Meow." Ben Meow also wanted to. Su Qingzhi looked back at his death and said, "In the future, it is forbidden to eat free food. You can only eat as much as you do." Black merchant. Black merchants. The white cat didn't agree this time, it was the owner's thoughtful little cotton jacket. "Meow, master, bald is not good, Yuanbao is the best." The crow, who was called back to its previous name, became unhappy and flapped its wings to peck at the white cat, but was trapped in a cage and unable to reach it. "Gaga, my name is Zhao Kai, you can't call me bald." A noisy bird, a scheming meow, the two little ones have been fighting for hundreds of years without getting tired of it. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The Water Splat by the Married Daughter. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. The water splat by the married daughter Su Qingzhi drove a tricycle all the way home. Just as I got off the car, I heard the voice of my family talking. Yanmei's sister. Law, it's really not that we are urging you too hard. Can you find a way to repay the 100,000 yuan you borrowed for the Chinese New Year? My son is going to college and now he doesn't have the money to supplement his nutrition. Wang Yanmei's face was troubled, her hands tightly gripping the old clothes that had already been washed. It wasn't that she didn't repay them, it was because she really didn't have money in her hands. When borrowing money, I agreed to repay it at the end of the year with 1 cent interest. This is less than 3 months. Selling her life won't make it to 100,000. She smiled apologetically and said, Guimei, this rice hasn't been harvested yet. I really don't have that much money in my hands. Can you pay back 5,000 first? Didn't your daughter come back? How could a big celebrity have no money? Zhang Guimei lowered her face. If she hadn't heard that the Su family's daughter acted as a celebrity before, she wouldn't have been willing to borrow money to flatter. Yesterday she heard that the daughter of the Su family was scolded online for drinking water. Although she doesn't understand why she was scolded for such a small matter, everyone is spreading the news that the Su family daughter can't survive in the city when she comes back. So, she quickly came to urge for debt. Guimei, I really don't have any money in my hands. Can you give me a little more time so that I can find a way to raise money? Wang Yanmei pleaded in a tone. Fundraising. Where are you going to raise money? That old man in your family has been sick for 10 years, and he has already emptied that little bit of his family. You have also borrowed everything that the wealthy relatives here can borrow. If you want me to tell you, the water thrown out by your married daughter is just you idiot who cares about your sick father. Zhang Guimei exclaimed, feeling very clear-headed. Since getting married, except for visiting your parents every holiday, she has ignored everything else. Wang Yanmei felt uncomfortable upon hearing this, but when she borrowed money from someone, she always lowered her head and didn't dare to speak hard. She just gritted her teeth and said in a calm tone, when the wealthy come back, I'll talk to him. We'll find a way to repay you with that money. You guys need to pay it back quickly, I'm in a hurry. Let me tell you, your daughter can't act anymore, so why don't you find someone else to marry and ask the groom for more dowry, pay off the debt and keep some retirement money for yourself. I heard that the son of the Toad family in the neighboring village is on a blind date looking for a wife. How rich is he? Go and inquire about it. Fuqian only relies on farming and vegetables as a laborer, and how much money can he earn throughout the year? Yanmei, we have a good relationship. I'll be honest with you. Don't take it to heart. After all, it was your poor judgment that caught your eye on the foolish man Fuqian. Look at my man who runs a restaurant outside and can earn 200,000 yuan a year. Zhang Guimei's tone was full of pride and pride. She and Wang Yanmei are from the same hometown and have married together in Taoshui village. Her days are much easier than Wang Yanmei's. Wang Yanmei listens in one ear and the other. If everything in the village is taken seriously, she will eventually have a heart attack. She just said lightly, my daughter's marriage is a big deal for her whole life, let her decide for herself. Zhang Guimei tilted her mouth, thinking that Wang Yanmei looked down on her. She sarcastically said, don't look down on that toad seller. They have one house in their hometown and one in the county town. The car they drove costs over 200,000 yuan, and the decoration at home is very impressive. I don't mean that. The parents don't have the final say in the marriage of a child. She likes it and is satisfied with it. Wang Yanmei said, seeing Su Qingzhi standing at the door, Qingzhi, have you got the express back? I took it, Mom. Su Qingzhi walked in and politely called out, Aunt Zhang. Zhang Guimei looked at it and exclaimed, oh my goodness, those who have been celebrities are different. They look white, tender, as if they are even more beautiful than a few months ago during the Chinese New Year. They must have been powdered, otherwise they wouldn't be so beautiful. Thinking so in her heart, Zhang Guimei enthusiastically praised on her face, "Qingzhi, you've become beautiful again after a few months of absence." End of this chapter. Chapter 8. I see you look like a toad. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. I see you look like a toad. Su Qingzhi's polite smile remained silent, and he turned to ask her mother, "I just heard you guys talking about money outside. What's wrong?" "Your grandfather will be hospitalized again in the new year for surgery, which will cost 100,000 yuan. I borrowed 100,000 yuan from Aunt Zhang," Wang Yanmei said in detail. Su Qingzhi had no idea about this matter and frowned slightly. "Why didn't you tell me?" Wang Yanmei sighed and said, "You're making money outside. It's so hard, and your parents can't help you anything, but they can't drag you down. I didn't tell you about these things." Su Qingzhi knew that his parents had this idea, and now is not the time to talk about these things. He turned to Zhang Guimei and said, "Aunt Zhang, please send me your bank card number, and I will transfer it to you now using my phone." "That's not possible. I don't understand what mobile phone transfers are." "You can go to the bank with me to withdraw cash for me." Zhang Guimei pursed her lips. "Mom, then I'll go to the bank with Aunt Zhang," Su Qingzhi said. Zhang Guimei remembered something and said to Wang Yanmei, "By the way, I may not know lightly. The interest still needs to be calculated." She took out an old-fashioned calculator from her floral bag, and it made a sound when she pressed it. "Zero it." Zhang Guimei muttered, "A total of 87 days, 1 minute of interest. That's all for those 3 months." The mechanical sound in the calculator reads 100, 101 times 3 equals 300. 3,000 interest, Yanmei, there's no mistake, you can calculate it yourself. Zhang Guimei put the calculator in front of Wang Yanmei. Wang Yanmei furrowed her brows and said with a hint of displeasure, "Guimei, we agreed to only calculate 1 cent of interest at the end of the year. You've been paying less than 3 full months these past 3 months, isn't that a bit less interest?" If it were someone else, it would be considered as picking up the account, and usually there would be no interest charged. However, Wang Yanmei also knew that others who could borrow money looked up to her and just spoke up to see if the interest could be reduced. Zhang Guimei put away the calculator with a smile on her face and said, "Yanmei, your daughter is a big star. She still needs a little more money. I could have lent you 100,000 yuan back then, so there's no need to argue about our friendship over a few yuan." Guimei. Wang Yanmei wanted to say something more, but Su Qingzhi held her down. "Mom, I'll go to the bank with Aunt Zhang." Wang Yanmei's face looked ugly, but she didn't say anything anymore. Su Qingzhi and Zhang Guimei went to the rural credit cooperative in the village and transferred the money. After coming out of the credit union, Zhang Guimei smiled and said, "You're already in your 20s and haven't found a partner yet, right? I told your mother, it's just the son who sells toads in our neighboring village. They have a lot of money, live in a luxury house and drive a BMW, and I heard they have 2 to 3 million miles in savings. The boy is 1.8 meters tall, handsome, and has no bad habits. If you're considering it, my aunt will go talk to you and let you see each other." Su Qingzhi gave a cold hook at the corner of his mouth, smiled, and remained silent. In the countryside, matchmaking became a success. The matchmaker with 6,000 yuan was generous, and the toad seller offered 10,000 yuan. Zhang Guimei had already been tempted, and when she caught the right girl, she persuaded her. Seeing that Su Qingzhi remained silent, she quickly pursued and boasted, "Qingzhi, if it weren't for my age, the young man wouldn't look up to me. I would have been fascinated by that young man. Our family is wealthy, tall, and handsome, and several young girls who have been on blind dates like her, but they don't look up to her. My aunt thinks that if you go, the other person will definitely be satisfied. You look much more handsome than those girls." "Aunt Zhang doesn't need to worry," Su Qingzhi refused. "Don't look down on those who sell toads, they always make money. Zhang Guimei kept persuading in her own thoughts. Su Qingzhi sneered, I see you look like a toad, which matches their family quite well. His son doesn't like you, and his father divorced a year ago and is still single. Why don't you give it a try? Hey, Qingzhi, how are you talking? Zhang Guimei raised her voice in displeasure, someone is matchmaking for you, this is looking up to you. Su Qingzhi waved his hand and walked away. The house that sells toads is notorious for domestic violence. As for what is 1.8 meters tall, handsome guy, with money at home, just listen to it. Zhang Ergu, whose face is full of pockmarks in the village, can be praised by matchmakers for his achievements. Aunt Zhang has a clear idea in her mind. Su Qingzhi came back to retire, not to get married and have children. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Sister earns money to buy a house for her younger brother. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Sister earns money to buy a house for her younger brother. Su Qingzhi walked home alone. On both sides of the cement road in the countryside are rice paddies, which look like a vast expanse of emerald green. The rice grains have grown into ears but have not yet fully formed. A person walking through the field recognized Su Qingzhi and passionately shouted at a high voice, Qingzhi, come and help your father look at the rice. Su Qingzhi recognized the old man walking between the fields as his neighbor Lu Kaisheng, who used to be next to the old house above. When Su Qingzhi was in college, his family built a new house below him, and he hadn't seen him for a long time. He looked much older. She responded by shouting, Grandpa, I'm just passing by. Oh, I heard your dad helped sell watermelons today. Wow. Lu Kaisheng crossed the canal and walked up. Yes, Su Qingzhi responded. Lu Kaisheng also took this road when he went back. If he wanted to pass by Su Qingzhi's house, the two of them walked together. As he walked, he said, Qingzhi, your father is not young anymore, and there is still a younger brother at home who wants to study. You need to earn more money while you are young. Otherwise, where will your younger brother come from to buy a house and beg for his wife in the future? There are quite a few people in the village who don't have money to be single now. Su Qingzhi smiled twice disapprovingly. There are many elderly people with this mindset in rural areas, and many of them have gone out of the village half a step in their lifetime. It is unnecessary to be angry or anything like that. She half-jokingly joked, Grandpa, your ideas are too conservative. There's no reason for older sisters to make money to buy a house for younger brothers. Nowadays, it's popular to work hard on your own. That's right, your generation of young people have different ideas from our generation. I don't have a gatekeeper with my mouth. I made a mistake before and made my granddaughter.in-law angry by calling me feudal and never coming to see me again. Lu Kaisheng shook his head helplessly. Su Qingzhi didn't speak up anymore. She has never been interested in other people's family matters. Lu Kaisheng looked at a rice field and said to himself, the weather has been too dry this year. It has been a month and it rained last night. I'm afraid the rice harvest is not good, and life is tough. This matter depends on the blessings of heaven. Su Qingzhi glanced at the verdant rice fields and said that he was about to reach the fork in the road at his doorstep. He waved his hand and said, Grandpa, I'm home. Let's go. Okay, Lu Kaisheng said with his hands behind his back, nodding. From the main road to Su Qingzhi's house, it is a small path less than 100 meters long. On the right side of the road is a pond, and near the courtyard dam at the entrance of the house is our own vegetable garden. She leisurely carried her hands behind her and walked back, which was quite comfortable to walk in. Wang Yanmei stood at the entrance and saw her daughter and a man from a distance, shouting loudly, Qingzhi, who did you come back with? Lu Kaisheng heard it and shouted, Yanmei, it's me. Uncle Kai, our family is about to have lunch. Let's eat together, Wang Yanmei waved. Lu Kaisheng waved his hand and said, No, Yanmei, my old lady is waiting for me to eat. Okay, Uncle Kai, come next time you're free. Okay. Lu Kaixing walked away, and Su Qingzhi also walked home. For the above conversation, Su Qingzhi did not participate and referred to it as scene talk literature. Wang Yanmei saw Su Qingzhi and reached out to pat her lower arm heavily. There's no walking style, she said. Su Qingzhi has been under the control of her mother since childhood. She used to feel annoyed, but now she feels a bit happy. She has been in the cultivation world for 500 years. At first, her master was there, but later on, her master left and her senior brothers competed for power. An endless stream of betrayal scenes and fratricide among fellow disciples. The sect, which has always claimed to be bright, has been engulfed and disintegrated from within. She got into a fierce opponent who was also a powerful villain, forcing her to become even more involved in self-defense. Later on, she no longer trusted anyone, and for 100 years of loneliness, except for her arch-nemesis who sent someone to assassinate her, only the crow and the big cat accompanied her. Wang Yanmei furrowed her eyebrows and muttered, "A girl doesn't have to walk too straight, she needs to look like a person. No one can walk with both hands behind her and a hunched back. It's too ugly." Su Qingzhi replied lazily, "I got it, Mom. I'm just walking and playing." Wang Yanmei's stern face relaxed as she remembered the words she had read online last night. She couldn't bear to scold. "All right, wash your hands and get ready to eat." Wang Yanmei turned around to leave when suddenly someone slapped her back and she turned around. Su Qingzhi grinned at her and said, "Mom, don't walk hunchbacked." Wang Yanmei picked up the pile of spicy things piled up at the door and pretended to hit Su Qingzhi, no big or small. Su Qingzhi ran into the house first and dodged. What a scene of maternal kindness and filial piety. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. You Can't Leave Our Dad Alone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. You Can't Leave Our Dad Alone. Su Qingzhi certainly knew that her mother wouldn't really hit her, just pretending. Just like when she was a child, she didn't like to eat and pretended to go out to eat with a bowl, secretly pouring the food into a small ditch next to her, only to be discovered by her mother. Her mother picked up spicy and wanted to hit her, but Su Qingzhi was scared and ran out of the house. Her mother chased after her like wolves, tigers, and leopards. Su Qingzhi ran to his classmate's house to play, while also worrying whether his mother would notice her. But her mother has never pursued her, and this spiciness has never fallen on her. However, there was a deterrent effect, and Su Qingzhi never dared to secretly throw away the food again. At this moment, Su Qingzhi ran into the house, washing his hands and talking about pouring rice. Wang Yanmei snorted twice and said, "You're just learning from your father's bad habits. Your father used to pour food on the riverbank in the village and was reported to your grandparents. After that, your father stopped reading. If he had read books, he wouldn't have earned money as a laborer. After your uncle finished reading, he joined the army and became a secretary in the village. Your uncle also made money by opening a clinic in the village after he studied, just your dad." Ah. After listening to the rest for over a decade, Su Qingzhi frowned and said, "My dad didn't read because he poured out food, and my grandparents didn't let him read." "Where?" Wang Yanmei said, looking both angry and amused. "It's because your dad told your grandparents to eat tofu every day and don't want to go to school anymore. In those days, it was good to have tofu to eat, and the only oil and water in the family were given to your dad. You inherited it from your dad, who was very picky." Su Qingzhi smiled and hugged her mother's arm, saying, "Fortunately, Dad found you, and I also have good taste. Your cooking skills are recognized by the whole village." Wang Yanmei shook her head and said, "What's the use of being a good cook, and not making money? You don't have the strength to make a big pot of rice when you invite chefs and men to those banquets." As soon as the words fell, Wang Yanmei's phone rang. "Good luck, I wish you good luck." Wang Yanmei glanced at her phone, her face changed, and she walked out to answer the phone. Su Qingzhi held a bowl and filled it with rice for 2 people. Su Fuqiang helps people sell watermelons, and they can only come back after selling a whole cart. Often, they can only be sold out in the middle of the night. She returned from the cultivation world and quenched her body with spiritual spring water. Her hearing was much better than that of a normal person. As long as she wanted to hear anything, she could hear any movement within 100 meters. The sound of Wang Yanmei making the phone naturally fell into her ears. It's my aunt Wang Jinlan's phone number. My grandmother gave birth to 2 daughters, Wang Yanmei being the youngest and Wang Jinlan being the eldest. She recruited a son-in-law named Zhou Hongwei at home. The custom here in Meiqing is that a son-in-law who comes to visit is equivalent to a son. So Su Qingzhi is called Uncle Zhou Hongwei and Aunt Wang Jinlan. Wang Jinlan cried and shouted, "Yanmei, it's not good anymore. Dad's body has deteriorated again and he needs to go to the operating room. The doctor said he needs to pay 30,000 yuan immediately before the surgery can be performed. The guarantee for the future is estimated to be around 50,000 to 60,000 yuan. I only have 3,000 yuan left in my hand, so please find a way to transfer it to me. I don't have any money now. Fuqiang went to the county to help sell watermelons. Wang Yanmei anxiously turned around. When I was a child, my dad loved you the most. You can't ignore our dad. Wang Yanmei almost burst into tears. I don't care, I really don't have money. Yanmei, come up with a solution. Dad's situation is very urgent now, so I won't tell you more. Wang Yanmei looked at the hung-up phone, and on her phone screen, there was still a family photo taken at her mother's doorstep. At that time, the old man's health improved and he spent a good new year at home. She tightly gripped her phone. Su Qingzhi shouted inside, "Mom, it's time for dinner." Wang Yanmei quickly wiped away her tears with the back of her hand and responded, "Hey, here we are." The dishes for 2 people to eat are simpler, 1 bowl of boiled tender tofu and the other bowl of stir-fried pork belly with dried beans. Meiqing dried tofu is well known throughout the country, not just dried tofu, but also a variety of tofu. It is said that because Meiqing has good water, the tofu made is even more delicious. Dried beans are rare to see in the city of the state. They are farmhouse products. The long beans grown at home are dried in water to a brownish-yellow color, with the salty aroma of beans. The same principle as braising pork with pickled vegetables is used. Fried pork belly with dried beans is the most fragrant, and Su Qingzhi can eat 2 bowls of rice every time because of this dish. However delicious the food is, Wang Yanmei doesn't have much appetite and her mind is full of money. End of this chapter.